Every spring, asparagus growers wait. They planted 2 or 3 years ago. They waited through seasons where nothing edible appeared. And now, finally, the spears are pushing up through the soil. Asparagus is worth waiting for, because once it is established, it produces for 20 to 30 years from the same crowns, without replanting. But asparagus has limits. It needs specific soil conditions. It takes substantial horizontal space. And in warm climates, zone 7 and above, it often struggles, producing poorly or failing entirely as summers get hotter. There is a root vegetable, called Scorzonera, that tastes almost exactly like asparagus, that grows as a perennial for 20 years or more, that tolerates heat, cold, drought, and poor soil far better than asparagus ever could, that produces edible roots, edible leaves, and edible flowers, all from the same plant, and that is completely invisible in every garden center in America. The plant is called Scorzonera. Scientific name, Scorzonera hispanica, also called black salsify, black oyster plant, and viper's grass. And the story of how this remarkable perennial vegetable, beloved across European cuisine for 4 centuries, became completely unknown in American horticulture, is one of the most bewildering gaps in the entire history of American food culture. By the end of this video, Scorzonera will make complete sense as one of the most undervalued perennial vegetables available to American gardeners. And the question of why every asparagus grower is not also growing Scorzonera will have a clear and somewhat embarrassing answer. Asparagus is one of the great perennial vegetables. Everyone who grows it knows the joy of those first spring spears. And everyone who grows it also knows the challenges. The crowns need deeply prepared soil, 18 inches down. They need space. Plants should be 18 inches apart in dedicated beds. They need years of establishment before meaningful harvest. And in zones 7 and above, summer heat often causes premature fern development, reducing next year's spear production. Scorzonera solves most of these problems without sacrificing the flavor that makes asparagus worth growing in the first place. The flavor comparison, made by virtually everyone who tastes Scorzonera for the first time, is asparagus, sometimes described as asparagus with a hint of artichoke, sometimes as asparagus with an underlying oyster note, which is why it is also called the oyster plant. Complex, savory, distinctive, and genuinely delicious in a way that most root vegetables simply are not. Scorzonera originates in southern Europe and Central Asia. It has been documented in cultivation across Spain, France, Italy, and the Balkans since at least the 16th century. By the 17th century, it was a fashionable and highly regarded vegetable in the royal courts of France and the Netherlands. French cuisine, which shaped the foundation of fine dining across Europe and eventually America, featured Scorzonera prominently in its repertoire of refined vegetable preparations. The name viper's grass, one of its traditional common names, comes from an old belief that the plant's juice could treat snakebite. This belief was widespread across medieval and Renaissance Europe, and while it has no basis in modern medicine, it speaks to the prominence of Scorzonera in the European folk medicine tradition, a plant so common and so well regarded that it was considered a medical resource as well as a food. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Scorzonera appeared in virtually every serious European kitchen garden. British kitchen garden manuals from the Victorian era describe Scorzonera as an essential autumn and winter vegetable. French potager designs from the same period include Scorzonera as a standard component alongside leeks, carrots, and parsnips. It was not an exotic curiosity. It was a staple. American colonial gardens, largely modeled on English kitchen garden traditions, included Scorzonera in their planting lists. Thomas Jefferson grew Scorzonera at Monticello. Early American seed catalogs from the 18th and 19th centuries list Scorzonera as a standard offering. And then, in the 20th century shift toward commercial vegetable production and supermarket culture, Scorzonera quietly disappeared. Not from Europe, where it remains available in markets and grown in gardens across the continent, but from America, where it has been essentially invisible for the better part of a century. Now here is what makes Scorzonera genuinely extraordinary as a garden plant. The root itself, the primary edible part, is long, cylindrical, and black-skinned. Ebony black on the outside, brilliant ivory white inside. The contrast when sliced is dramatic. The skin is actually a thick layer of bark-like material, which peels away easily after blanching, to reveal the white flesh underneath. The roots grow straight down, reaching 12 to 18 inches in length in good soil, and require careful digging to extract intact. But Scorzonera is genuinely a perennial. If roots are left in the ground rather than harvested, the plant continues growing the following year. The roots become larger. The flavor deepens. A Scorzonera root left in the ground for 2 years produces a root significantly larger and more complex in flavor than a first-year harvest. And the plant itself, the above-ground portion, regrows each spring from the crown for 20 years or more. This creates a genuinely flexible harvesting system. Harvest the roots in autumn of year 1 for a modest but delicious first harvest. Leave half in the ground to continue developing. By year 2 and 3, the unharvested roots have grown substantially, and new crowns from the first planting seeds, which Scorzonera sets prolifically, add new plants to the bed each year, creating a self-renewing perennial system that requires almost no replanting. The edible flowers of Scorzonera, which appear in the plant's second year and beyond, are bright yellow, similar in appearance to dandelion flowers, but more refined in structure. They are genuinely beautiful in the garden, and they are edible, used as a garnish or added to salads. Scorzonera is one of the very few vegetables where flowers, leaves, and roots are all edible, making it one of the most productive food plants per square foot of any garden perennial. The nutritional profile of Scorzonera is impressive for a root vegetable. It is an exceptional source of inulin, a prebiotic dietary fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. The inulin content in Scorzonera is among the highest of any commonly grown vegetable. It provides meaningful iron, potassium, vitamin C, and B vitamins. And it contains asparagine, the amino acid first isolated from asparagus, which contributes to the characteristic asparagus-like flavor that makes Scorzonera so distinctive. Published nutritional research has confirmed Scorzonera's high inulin content and its value as a prebiotic food. European nutritional databases, which include Scorzonera because it remains a commercial vegetable in Europe, document its superior fiber composition compared to most root vegetables. The combination of prebiotic inulin, meaningful vitamins and minerals, and the distinctive flavor profile makes Scorzonera genuinely nutritionally interesting, beyond its culinary appeal. In the kitchen, Scorzonera is extraordinarily versatile. The most common traditional preparation is blanching or boiling the roots with their skins on, then peeling away the black skin to reveal the white flesh. The cooked flesh can be sautéed in butter, which is the classic French preparation, producing a rich golden vegetable with deep asparagus artichoke flavor. It can be roasted, which concentrates the flavor further. It can be creamed into soup. It can be battered and fried. It can be eaten raw when very young, grated into salads. One practical note for anyone preparing Scorzonera for the first time: the cut flesh oxidizes quickly, turning brown when exposed to air. Drop cut pieces immediately into water with a little lemon juice or vinegar to prevent browning. This is the same technique used for artichoke hearts, and Scorzonera requires the same attention to detail at the cutting stage. Growing Scorzonera is genuinely straightforward, with one specific soil requirement that matters. Scorzonera needs deep, loose, stone-free soil to produce straight, long roots. In compacted or rocky soil, the roots fork and twist, becoming difficult to harvest intact. Raised beds with deep, loose, compost-enriched growing medium produce the best results. Prepare the bed at least 12 to 15 inches deep, removing any stones. In ideal conditions, the straight, long roots that result are genuinely impressive. Sow seeds directly in the garden in early spring, or in autumn for a spring crop. Seeds are large and easy to handle. Sow 1 inch deep, 4 to 6 inches apart, thin to 6 inches apart as seedlings emerge. Scorzonera is cold hardy to zone 3. It tolerates frost and freezing without damage. In fact, frost improves the flavor of the roots, converting starches to sugars, making late autumn and winter the best harvest window. Harvest roots in autumn after the first frost, or leave them in the ground and harvest through winter and into early spring. The roots stay fresh and firm in the ground through winter, making Scorzonera one of the few vegetables that genuinely stores itself in place through the cold season. Simply mark the rows and dig roots as needed through the winter months. Seeds are available from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, Territorial Seed Company, and various European seed suppliers who ship to the United States. Scorzonera. For centuries of European cultivation. Asparagus flavor with artichoke depth. Perennial for 20 years. Edible roots, edible leaves, edible flowers, all from one plant. Extraordinary prebiotic inulin content. Cold hardy to zone 3. Stores itself in the ground through winter. Beloved across European horticulture for centuries. And completely invisible in American garden centers today? Drop asparagus in the comments if the flavor comparison is what made this plant immediately interesting. And drop perennial if the 20-year growing life is the detail that convinced you. This community is building the most complete map of forgotten food plants in American horticulture. Every comment helps. Subscribe to Famine Plant Secrets for one extraordinary forgotten plant every single week.